joining back to the Yarn Addicts YouTube channel. Today we're going to give you a sort of day in the life of what it's like to own a yarn store and what I accomplished from my morning through the responsibilities at the store. I'm excited to have you here, and I'll be answering some of your questions, and you get to meet Whiskey. He's having a big puppy day. He likes yarn a lot. He's gonna come to the store and we'll give you a little glimpse of him there, but he doesn't know yet how to behave around yarn. So we need a little bit more training. So that's Whiskey. I'm gonna have my breakfast, a cup of coffee, give Whiskey a correction, and I'll see you on my way to the store. Our customers often have a lot of questions on my daily schedule, about myself, the staff, store, and our procurement processes. So here's a few answers to those questions. Great question. My favorite part of owning a yarn store is working closely with the staff, our daily staff and our teachers together. We really created quite an environment. There are 9 staff members here in total, or at least pre-COVID there were 9 staff members here in total. I believe we have 8 now, and we all have a wonderful working relationship. We often go out for breakfast together, strategize, and laugh during the day, text each other in the evening. So I really enjoy that. I didn't expect that part of owning a yarn store. I would not say that a store should have a kumbaya kind of relationship with their staff and teachers, but that doesn't mean that everyone shouldn't have a positive working relationship with a lot of respect, thoughtfulness, and consideration. And that's really been very fulfilling. To say that that's more important than all the friendships and experiences I have with my customers wouldn't be accurate. Equally important are relationships that I've built with customers, true friendships, and that has really been above and beyond. We've celebrated almost 6 years here in our physical store. And normally we'd have a big holiday party and an anniversary party. So this year it'll probably be a little low key for that, but it was always my favorite day of the year. And it's standing room only for those events at that time, but they've always been really rewarding, and it gives us time to reflect back on the year, what we've accomplished, done, and how we've grown and changed, and what we're expecting for the next year. So in total, working with the staff and customers is really the best part of owning the store. I think what's most popular for knitting and crocheting are very different. So for crochet, crochet is really going through a revolution. So what's new for crochet is what's trending, which is really interesting, and it's slightly different than knitting. Crochet is getting further and further away from the typical granny squares and double crochet, repetitive patterns, be it back and forth or from the corner or in the round, from the center out. Crochet is really far from that. There is overlay crochet, brioche crochet, mosaic crochet. Those are all forms of color work. And to see all the new crochet designers creating these wonderful, wonderful works of color now that have a lot of not only color but texture as well is really impressive. So I think that crochet is going through a revolution, frankly, not just a trend, and really redefining itself. And we pride ourselves on the number of samples here we have in crochet. We do have more knitting samples, and we can always use more crochet samples, but we want to inspire both crocheters and knitters when they come into our store. What's similar about the trends from crochet to knitting is that color work is really trending for knitting. And for crochet, the mosaic and the brioche are trending, are revolutionary in crochet, but they're not new to knitting per se. Stranded knitting and slip stitch knitting is not new, but they're definitely trending. Brioche was trending several years ago. That's waned a bit. So right now we're seeing stranded knitting sweaters, lots of different color palettes and all different weights of yarn. So you're seeing from fingering all the way to worsted, stranded knitting techniques. And for those who don't like to work with stranded knitting technique, mosaic knitting is a wonderful, wonderful and easier way to bring color into your work. So those are the two aspects that are two techniques that are trending for knitting. So in total, for both knitting and crochet, all the color work is really what's trending, and using those techniques, and that's really interesting. For crochet, we're starting to see more garments, which is great. We're starting to see really innovative cardigans and pullovers in crochet that don't look like they are 40-year-old designs, and I give credit to a lot of designers for that. For knitting, that top-down raglan is really in a lot of people's sweet spots right now. So that's really what's trending sweater-wise in knitting. Of course, accessories are always popular in both crochet and knitting. Lots of hats, lots of scarves. Definitely need that. We're hoping Old Man Winter will come in pretty strong this year. And it's great to have a sweater project you can work on at home, and then a go-to project like a hat or a scarf that you could take with you. It's a little easier to bring that and travel with, etc., take a nice car ride. That's a loaded question. So if you know me, you know that's a really, really long, big answer. I'll try to give you the short of it. I always overcommit. Many of my staff know this because they help finish some of the projects I start for the store. I should say most of the projects I start for the store. So I'll do about a third of it, and then one of the staff will try to finish it up for me. And then we'll go on to the next project. For crochet, I am hooking two projects, and they are both blankets. One is Sophie's Universe, which is, of course, the Shape J's 2015 or 14 Cal, and I am making it in Blue Sky Fibers wool stock. So a nice crunchy yarn. It's going to give a real antique look to that blanket. And I did anticipate finishing that during COVID and haven't picked it up actually in the last 9 months. So perhaps that'll be my 2021 finish. It's never too late to finish that. I am also hooking a blanket for my daughter using also Sheep G's yarn that a customer had gifted me, and I'm making a, I think it's called the Riverstone blanket. It almost looks like a stained glass window. I don't have enough probably to put a picture of that in here, but you can look that up on Ravelry. So I need to get working on that. She reminded me very thoughtfully a few weeks ago that I hadn't made too much progress on it. So she's kind of getting to know my speed a little bit. I'll start with a big zoom and then I might slow down a bit. As for knitting, well, like I said, big loaded question. I'm better than I used to be. Probably about 3-4 years ago, I'd have about 40 knitting projects on needles at any one time. No, I've never confused where I am in a project. I use highlighter tape to keep track of my patterns. I know I could pick that pattern up 5 years later and I know exactly what line I'm on. And we teach our students here in the store to track while they're knitting and keep track of what line they're on. So I never have a problem picking up a project later. I just have a problem finishing those projects when they get a little on the old side. So I started a New Year's Day tradition a few years ago when my UFOs got really, really intense in numbers. And every New Year's Eve Day morning, I take out all my UFOs and I decide which ones I'm not going to finish. I usually look at the ones I didn't touch for the last year, and I almost always take them off my needles, frog them, decide what to do with the yarn, get my needles back into my personal inventory of needles, reuse them. And it's a good way to kind of clean things out. So I'm much better than I used to be, but I would say now it's fair to say I have 10 projects on needles. I am making myself a lavage sweater in Barocco Sesame. Good throw on cardigan, good boyfriend cardigan. We do have a sample already knit here in the store, but I had to make one for myself. I am also knitting myself a second ranunculus. I made one for the store for the New Jersey Wool Walk. I made that in a record 10 days. So now I'm going to see if I could beat my record by one day and knit mine in 9 days. And I'm going full speed ahead on that. So that's ranunculus, and I'm using some Molly Girl sparkly yarn that she gave me during a trunk show. So thank you for that, Angela. Also on my needles is what I call a rite of passage project, and I've done many of those here for the store, but I wanted to finally make myself Hitta food, and I'm using Earth Yarns Harvest in Thuja, which is their black colorway. So I need to get back to that. The lace work on that is a little repetitive for my liking, and so I put it aside during the summer, but I definitely will get back to that. There are probably countless shawls and a hat, and I have another hat waiting to go on my needles, but I'm never short of things I can easily pick up. I always have a real easy go-to project that I can do anywhere in my sleep, and then I always have a more complicated project that I really prefer to work on, that where I really have to watch my lines and chart things, follow graphs, etc. So never a shortage of projects, but always come ask me what I'm making. I'm happy to show you all my projects. A lot. So for yarn, accessories, notions, and all the other many offerings we have here, we have over, I'd say, 80 brands easily that we procure from. We purchase items all over the world, generally get a delivery almost every day. It's really interesting purchasing a wide variety of products that need to offer consistency for customers who are coming in. They're looking for staple products, and then they're also looking for kind of inspiration and one-of-a-kinds. So we try to strike a reasonable balance between the two, and I'm always cognizant of that when purchasing. Good question. I probably have to pass on answering which yarn is our absolute worst seller, but I can tell you honestly, I've picked some dogs in my 6 years here, and they almost always end up in clearance pretty quickly, and you can snag those for anywhere from 25 to 50% off. And we get, we go through a lot of clearance yarn. We have all of our closeouts on our website, and you can always check to see what we have here. Our breadth of clearance yarns has diminished over the years, so that's probably a good thing, meaning that I'm making some smart purchases. But invariably, you purchase sometimes something you really think will answer a need that you have, and it just doesn't strike it right. It doesn't appeal to customers the way you expected. Best-selling yarn is really an interesting question. Probably for most stores, that worsted weight superwash wool is always a good staple to go with. And for our store, we stock Cascade Superwash Merino. So it's 220 Superwash Merino. It comes in over 100 colors. We probably have close to all the colors here in the store. We keep deep stocks, multiple bags of each color. So we obviously store that yarn off premises. That's how much we sell of it and stock it. It's washable and dryable, and that's unusual even for a superwash. So it's great for a baby sweater, accessory for that special man in your life or woman in your life, or that great, kind of man's pullover or lady's cardigan or kid's romper. It doesn't matter. It's a great yarn. So I would say that's one of our best-selling yarns in the store. Our best-selling brand in the store, I would say, to expand on the question, is Malabrigo. We have, I don't know offhand, but probably at least 10 bases of Malabrigo. And, I'm not sure which is the best-selling base. I just know I order Malabrigo every single week. So we have it coming and going out of here. It sells really well online and in store. And it's really hard for other hand dyers to beat Malabrigo's pricing. And that's where the difference is. Their breadth of colors are interesting. They don't change all that much. So that's one thing. It's not like a hand dyer who's going to change his or her colorways more often. But the breadth of colors in each of the bases is very considerable. And the consistency in the product is great. So we don't see too many damages, easy to wind the yarn. And the price point can't be really matched by other hand dyers. And so time and time again, when people are looking for a yarn, they're looking, for a hand dyed yarn, they may go to Malabrigo because of the price point. We have many, many, many wonderful hand dyers here, and they do look different than Malabrigo, but it just depends on what your budget is and what you need. You may not need a black yarn from a high-end dyer, and one of Malabrigo's will work for you. Or you may want something more special, and Malabrigo may not have that color for you. But the #1 brand sold here is Malabrigo. I have a close second, which is really interesting, and this may lead us to our 4th video in a few weeks, which we're thinking about doing a mohair video. But Ito, which is a Japanese yarn, their Sensei base is also an incredibly great seller here, and that's mohair and silk. And we also box every week, just a little box of these beautiful little pillows. We'll insert a picture here of some beautiful pillows of Sensei. So the put up is really very pretty. Their aesthetic is lovely, and the yarn is really spectacular for the price. So that's also a great selling yarn here. I think communication is the most important part of running a successful yarn store or any business for that matter. Communicating with your staff, who are all generally here working very different days and hours. They don't always see each other. So unless we're going to have a breakfast for the store staff, which I often do for this purpose, I have to be able to communicate with all the staff members in a way that works for each of them, and that has everybody on the same page because everyone's working different shifts. And everyone's technology is a little different, so we want to make sure that we give information in a manner where it really works for everyone. Along the same lines, communicating with your customers is just as important. So sending out effective and thoughtful newsletters that gives appropriate updates, that is informing customers of what's new, what's trending, what may have changed in the store, and what we find interesting, I think is really important. That's why we send newsletters every 2 to 3 weeks. I know many other stores and companies, I find my inbox really crowded. A lot of big box stores just keep sending every day a newsletter. And I just don't find that to be an effective way to communicate. If I send a newsletter, it means we have something to say. I hope you do open it and read it through. I always say we try to make it pretty meaty, and we work on that newsletter for about 2 weeks before it goes out to you. So open it, peruse it, and let us know what you think. If there's something else you'd like us to include in the newsletter, you can always put that in the comments below. I'm happy to take all that feedback. But either way, communication by far is the #1 ingredient to a successful business. Another great question. Our customer base is vast. We ship worldwide 6 days a week. And so our customers are located in all different regions of the world, different weathers, So their seasons may be different. They may be exactly opposite of the seasons in New Jersey at the time. And then, of course, we have the needs of our customers that we see day in and day out that we're working with one-on-one. So to say that one yarn will fit the needs of our customer in our store and a customer in Australia would be naive. So I am very thoughtful when I purchase products that I think will have a broader appeal. I try to concentrate on having all the necessary staples for each weight of yarn and each fiber type in the store. And then from there, I've built out broader staples that have a lot of flexibility in use. So you may come into our store and think, she doesn't really have those kind of niche-y, trendy, almost kind of, one-time yarns that yarn companies like to do, and then they discontinue very quickly. They may have a little, rayon and glitz in it, and it's great for one season, and then it leaves the next season. I try not to buy yarns that are going to just be one seasonal yarn and not have an appeal for a couple years. One of the reasons I do that is because I feel very strongly about stocking sweater quantity yarn here in the store. When you come to my store or you shop online, you are doing us a huge compliment. We appreciate it. And we have gone to great lengths to make sure that the products we source are available in sweater quantity when we make our purchases. So I try to stay away from yarns that will only be one season, or limited edition yarns perhaps from bigger manufacturers. We try to source yarns thoughtfully and feel that they'll meet the greater needs of more of our customers that way. Now, that's not to say that we don't have beautiful, unique fibers here. We most certainly do. We have fibers from reasonable acrylics. You're looking to make a baby blanket and give that as a gift. You don't need to spend $200 on that, but you certainly can come in here and spend several $100s on yarn for a gorgeous, gorgeous sweater. And we have everything in between. So just as important it is to have sweater quantity, it's to have the right fibers in each category weight that you can make an educated decision if you want to spend a certain amount of money. Where's your budget on your sweater? And then you can make an intelligent decision on what your needs are, what your budget is, and what you're comfortable spending. It's a great question. I think generally I'm a fairly organized person. So the organization comes easy to me, especially, this is our 6th year here, at the end of our 6th year. At this point, I pretty much got the flow of things, and I feel I communicate well also generally, so that is not difficult for me. It is super important to manage my time effectively, and if I don't use my time wisely, the days can really get past me, and I'm not getting the work I need done that keeps the store running. So often I try to come in before the workday and the store opens and get an hour, hour and a half of bookwork done, yarns ordered for you that you're looking for, needles. So I kind of get all my paperwork off my desk and done, and this way I'm free for customers who come into the store. I also have a just fabulous staff that takes care of customers. They're all very well trained, they're knowledgeable, friendly, and relatable, and I can really rely on them to take care of customers as well. I think it's important when you come into the store that you see the owner. He or she may have a day off here and there, but it's still important to be here and be present. So having the right staff, but it gives you a little bit more freedom to stay organized, and I think that creates a very efficient and pleasant working environment for everyone when an owner is thoughtful and organized. I'm an introvert. I'm doing my best filming all these videos for YouTube so you can get to know the Yarn Addict and myself better. But my first tendency is to be an introvert. I'm perfectly fine sitting in the corner and knitting, or reading the news on my phone. But owning the store has certainly shown me that I do have a bit more extrovert tendencies than I originally thought. And I do enjoy that. So I like to be able to come to work and be a little more extroverted and chat with everyone, et cetera, et cetera. But I also really appreciate time to myself. Other than successfully raising 4 young adult children, which is quite a task. So that's probably my personal achievement. Vocationally, opening the store was definitely my greatest achievement. And that started when I decided to go back, finish my college degree. When I was in my early 30s, I got a business degree. And at that time, I was an interior designer. And that was in the early 2000s, and I had done that for quite a while. And I really just needed a change. And over the course of about 10 years, the interior design trade kind of has waned a bit with more disposable items that people prefer to buy, and less expensive furniture and carpetings and things like that. So the home furnishing field's really changed. So I figured at some point when my children got a little older that I would open a retail store. I didn't necessarily think it would be a yarn store. That actually had not occurred to me until about 2013, when someone passing by had suggested, why didn't I just open a yarn store? And I was like, huh, well, that's an interesting idea. So opening the store has been a huge achievement, not only the physical store, but the online store, and keeping both of them in balance and working has been great. So vocationally, the store has absolutely been my greatest achievement. Whiskey is a German Shepherd Husky mix. He looks more like a shepherd. Many people think he's a shepherd. But if you are in the house in the morning or at night, Whiskey likes to cry and whine like a husky. And we're starting to get him to talk a little bit too, like a husky. And kind of the front of his body is a shepherd, and he has a big husky fluffy tail. So he's a blend, and he's really a sweetheart. He's still in his adolescence though, so he needs a little bit more training and a lot more appreciation for yarn and how not to eat it. We definitely wind a lot of yarn at the Yarn Attic. I think I calculated the first year we wound about 4,000 miles of yarn. I did a calculation. So we do have an electric winder here. It makes that a little bit faster of a process. And we have a hand winder for mohairs and silks and more persnickety items. But at least we'll get our power winder going for this one. This is a pretty yarn from Molly Girl that has a little stellina in it. And I think I got this from a trunk show she was doing here. And I am going to use this in my second ranunculus sweater, along with Madeline Tosh's new mohair called Impressions. I'll get this spinning. And before long, it'll be a nice, pretty cake of yarn. We always recommend that if we wind your yarn here at the store, that you pull from the outside of the cake, not the inside, to prevent any tangling while you are knitting or crocheting. Some customers prefer to wind their own yarn. They like, as they wind it, they'll put their hank on the back of the chair, have someone hold the hank. They like to feel the plies go through their hands, and they can pick up any knots in the yarn or any defects in the yarn just by the texture difference, and they'll stop winding there and perhaps cut it out, or at least they can strategically divide the yarn for their project, so they'll know where to stop in a row to join a new piece. So there's a big school of thought to that. The other school of thought is that winding on a ball winder, electric or hand, that it stretches the yarn. And some people do not like this process, and they prefer to hand wind it, and they feel that you'll do it more loosely and it doesn't stretch the yarn. I have never found any evidence that that's the case. Perhaps I'm missing something. If you have anything to add about that in the comments, absolutely please do. I'm always open to hear everyone's experiences. We have even frogged pieces of items by backward winding that item right on the winder. It makes the process of frogging a lot less painful, which no one likes to do. But it's a fast way to frog, and it makes it simple. And then you can restart your project or think of a new project or just put it away for the time being. We do recommend that you wait to wind your hank until you're ready to use the yarn. So I would not say you should wind your hank when you buy it and then knit with it 3 years later. I do think that winding it when you're ready is the right thing to do. This way it'll stay at the right tension. And you can always appreciate the hank in your storage a lot kind of easier to look at than all the different cakes in your storage. At least I find that to be the case. This certainly is a pretty skein, wound or unwound. There we go, she's just about ready. And I'll do a helical blend with the first skein to the second skein, and once I get past my my sleeves, I'm working a top-down raglan. Once I get past into the sleeves, I'll join those two skeins together. Then I'm working a helical blend until I'm down to the second skein, and that's all that sweater takes. So that's ranunculus. Great top-down pattern with little detail on the yoke. Enjoy. Today I'm restocking yarn from Cocan. So she's a lovely hand dyer from the Netherlands, and we have been stocking her 100% superwash merino fingering weight, and she has 5 new colors, so we've gotten those in as well. So that's one of today's restockings. So when new customers come to our store, we always like to give them the 5-cent tour. So we like to explain where our yarns are located in the store, and we divide our yarns by weight. We also have a clearance section. We have a separate Noro section, a separate mini skein area, button selection, and lots of books and magazines to choose from. Oh, I hear a new customer outside right now. Sir, would you like to come in? Come on in. I'd love to give you the 5-cent tour. Oh, and sir, what is your name? This is Whiskey. Whiskey, how long have you been knitting and crocheting? Oh, 6.5 months. Whiskey's almost an expert already. I think he lives with a knitter and crocheter. All right, Whiskey. Well, we divide our yarns by weight. And so in the area where you just came in, this is our heaviest weights yarn. We start with super bulky. We have lots of Aran weights to choose from, as well as worsted weight. Within our categories, Whiskey, we have all variety of yarn, including superwash, non-superwash, lots of variegated, hand dyes, and commercially dyed yarns. Let's go see what other yarns we have in the store. So our next section up to my left is our fingering weight yarns. Again, lots of variety, from sticky Shetland wool like Jameson Spindrift to great hand-dyed yarns like Emma Yarns from Florida. And we source our yarns again all over the world, so you're going to find a variety of hand-dyed yarns, especially in our fingering weight yarns. Whiskey, every time you come to our store, check out our center island. This is where we feature about a dozen products. Each month we change our center island based on the season, what's trending, and whatever color we fancy. Oh, you really like this hat. Yes, I saw before. Yes, this is Harf. That's a great project for a winter hat. You can go in and out of places easily. Great. Whiskey, let's go downstairs and check out our next yarns. Wonderful. In our downstairs area, we stock sport and DK weight yarns. We love this weight of yarn, and we have a great variety to choose from. You'll find more of our trans-seasonal yarns in this category because they offer a little heavier factor in a DK and a lighter factor in a sport. So if you're looking for hemp, cotton, linens, almost always those blends are definitely in our sport and DK weights. Let's take a look around. In addition to our area down here, we have our clearance section where all of our items that are kind of either discontinued or left over a few skeins of each we put into clearance, and they make some lasting, great go-to projects. In addition to clearance, we often have a display on our 2 downstairs tables, and right now we have curated some special kits for the New Jersey Wool Walk, which is currently going on this week in New Jersey. Oh, there's no worry, we won't run out of kits. No need to cry, Whiskey. Let's go upstairs and check out the rest of our accessories we offer. So Whiskey, you're being so patient. But last but not least, behind our center island, you'll see that we have excellent magazines and publications that we get here weekly. Some glass and chinaware where you can find our custom wine glasses. And then there are lots of mini skein packages, roving, gradient cakes, and specialty yarn. Thanks so much for joining me today for a little view of my day and a question and answer session. I really enjoyed it. I hope you stop by our store and check out everything that we've shown you today and Whiskey got to experience. We have a lot to offer. We look forward to seeing you. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We always have lots of fun things for you to do, new exciting projects. Thanks so much. Look forward to your next project at the Yarn Attic.